All right, we're on page 59 now, and we have the Dreydl song. So that's kind of a nice change of pace. We get a lot of Christmas songs and stuff like that in our books. Might as well get something a little different. So they're talking about the upbeat. It says this piece begins with an upbeat or a pickup note. Oh, I've never heard it called an upbeat. I've always just called that a pickup note. But it says the upbeat leads into the first full measure. If a piece has an upbeat, the last measure will often be incomplete. The combined beats of the incomplete first and last measure will equal one full measure. All right, boy, that was a mouthful. So what are they saying here? They're saying you get this note that's just kind of floating by itself at the beginning, then we get a full measure of music. This is actually really common in just about any music. So we have like a lead-in note or a pickup note or an upbeat, and then we don't really get our official one, our downbeat, until the next measure there. So it's like an incomplete measure is what they're saying. All we have is beat 4 here. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that could be a little confusing. And then what they're saying is like we have to, it's a little silly, but we have to follow mathematical rules when it comes to this stuff. So we know that in 4/4, which we're in, we have to have 4 beats per measure, right? Well, this first measure only has 1 beat. That breaks the rules. So we have to fix that somehow. So if you actually count the beats in the last measure, there's only 3 beats. You have a half note and a quarter note. That's it. That's only 3 beats. That's not a full measure of 4/4. So they're actually borrowing from this first measure so that the very first bit plus the last one equals a full 4 count. That's confusing, and it's like almost not even that important. But that is true, and that's how music works. So don't overthink it with this one. Just know we kind of have a pickup note, da, dun, 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 and then we're in, and they kind of just chop the last measure a little short to make up for that. Half the time you'll see some rest in the last measure anyway, so it doesn't even matter. But that's enough talk about this one. What do we have here? It says 1 on D, so that's a D right above middle C. So we're in a G position, go figure. Just instead of this low one, we're in this one. So this is middle C right here, and we're hanging out right around middle C. And then we're going to set our right hand up in that G position. So if we take our old school C position and just scoot it up to G position, we are in good shape. I'm not seeing any circled finger numbers or anything like that. So I think our hands are just hanging out here the whole piece. Yeah, looking like it. A little bit of dynamics, some mezzo piano at the beginning. Hey, this kind of like pickup note going into measure 9, that's where forte comes in. So we're going to go louder there. Oh, some accents. But not really, just accents on the last note. So hit that last chord a little hard. And that's pretty much it. Let's just get into it. So here's my G position. Here we go. Go, big last chord there. Couple other little things to point out. You might notice that when we play this G chord, these notes up here are actually kind of part of that G chord, right? So they jive with that G chord. And then when we get to this A, well, A doesn't really fit over that G chord very well, but it sounds nicer with the other sound, which would be like our 5 chord in this case. Then 4/2 or C and A sounds better over that with the tension, and then we're gonna finally resolve it back into that G thing. So they're kind of trying to explain it in the book, but basically we have our home bass, G, but then we have some more, you know, when you hear that on its own, it doesn't sound great. That's not a great sound. So the 5 chord creates tension, and that tension wants to push back into the 1 chord and resolve that. So a good example of this is if I were to stop in a weird place. If I stop there, it sounds incomplete, right? It needs to finish. Kind of hard to explain, but the more we train our ears, you'll start to feel a piece needs to push one way or the other. So it's the same way if I play a C scale. and stop on B, it'll drive some people crazy because it feels like it needs to land on that C there. So that's a little more theory, ear training stuff. You can get more into that with your teacher. Anyways, let's get on to the next page here.